we don't have any rain and we're talking about flooding in the river, but it's a very important subject that we've had to deal with here along the river for a while. We're talking about emergency access for our first responders to issues here in the river. When people end up in the river during flood situations, have to be rescued from the river, those types of things. So much of the river is choked with non-native species and invasive species that we have been trying to find ways to make it easier access for our lifeguards, our firefighters, our first responders. So when they're trying to save lives, they're not putting their own lives at risk. We got together with Ben Clay over at the River Conservancy, brought that state agency together with the city and the county, and we got together and came up with a plan where we are clearing out 7 different sites along the river here to give our lifeguards and first responders quick, easy access to try and help people when they're in trouble in the river. You know, it's not rained much this year, so we haven't seen any of these issues, but you just have to remember back to last January and the flooding issues. We had to evacuate the hotel down here. A lot of times we have homeless issues here in the river where people end up in the river and have to be rescued. And having to go up and down the river half a mile, quarter mile, trying to find a place to get to the water and then get to the victim is very difficult. And then extracting them with all this choking debris and non-native species really puts our first responders at risk. So we got together with Ben Clay over at River Conservancy, who's a former lifeguard and wanted to help out, brought all the agencies together, and what you'll see today is the beginning of that process, where we're cleaning out 7 different locations to make it easy access for training and for river rescue along the San Diego River here. Couldn't have happened without the collaboration of many different groups coming together. It took River Conservancy at the state, it took CAL FIRE, lifeguards, local fire, city leadership, county leadership, but it's a problem that we needed to address down here and we're finally been able to do it, and it's a common sense solution that with the River Conservancy and their permits and their groups of volunteers and dollars, that it's really not going to be a large cost to the city, but we'll be giving all kinds of benefits. So we wanted to bring you here today, show you what we're going to be doing, show you the benefits, and let the fire chief and the lifeguard chief kind of talk to you directly and tell you what a benefit this is to them. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Fire Chief Hennessy, who will talk from the fire department. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think in listening to the council member, you know, the word that really rings clear in all this is collaboration. Before I go much further, I do want to thank Councilman Sherman for his leadership. You know, what may look to have been an easy project, nothing's ever easy, right? And his support of public safety in this city is just commendable. And I do want to thank others. I want to thank the River Conservancy. I want to thank CAL FIRE. I'll give them a special shout out in a minute, of course. Our lifeguard division, the county. This is a big deal. I used to work many years ago in one of the local fire stations, and we used to respond down here on a regular basis, whether it be for fires, for rescues, medical calls, and very difficult to access. And you just need to look around and go, boy, how am I going to get 50 feet in either direction? As the council member said, you flash back to last January, water was all the way up into the parking lot here. Our Swiftwater rescue team has a very tough challenge, very challenging to get to people that need our help. So this is a big deal. I do want to thank CAL FIRE. We've got a relationship with the County Fire Authority, which is managed by the state of California, CAL FIRE. And when it came to looking for a workforce that was going to be able to take care of the vegetation problem for us, they're right there for us. They're there for us all the time. The other night we had a fire down in Choyas, and we made a call, and I don't believe in the end they needed to show up, but they're right there for us. This is a big change from 10, 15 years ago. We found that in this region, certainly within this city, we rely on partnerships. And our partnerships have never been stronger. So I'm proud to stand here as the city's fire chief and thank my lifeguard division chief, Rick Wirtz, for he and his Swiftwater rescue team. I want to thank our special operations people that are here today with our USAR task force folks. And again, I want to give a special shout out to Chief Schuler representing CAL FIRE. Thank you for being here. At this time, I'd like to introduce Lifeguard Chief Rick Wirtz.
Thanks, Chief. I want to echo what the Chief said. It's with great appreciation that we're here today and trying to recognize all the folks that played a part in what is going to amount to creating a much safer way for us to conduct emergency operations. The fact of the matter is, for any lifeguard, any firefighter, any first responder, you can't rescue somebody until you can access them first. And along a river like this, with thick vegetation, one of the first challenges we have is not only finding the victim, but then being able to access them as quickly as possible. Just last year, we made 62 rescues out of the building right across that parking lot. And then up and down our river, we made an additional 25 rescues. For lifeguards, swift water rescues are some of the most dangerous types of rescues we're involved with. The very nature of constantly flowing, moving water creates hazards that you can't imagine. And for the lifeguards getting in the water, it's very dangerous. Having accesses like this that we can immediately get down to key locations where we can access other parts of the river, be able to deploy rescue boats to help us, to assist us in making those rescues, not only help the victims, but also help the first responders as well. So I truly am grateful for all the efforts that have gone in. As the Chief said, so many people participated and so many people helped out. I too want to thank Councilmember Sherman, Mayor Faulkner for their guidance up and down the river here, the work that they're doing to make the San Diego River a cleaner environment. It's not only good for the environment, but it's good for the public. It's good for public safety. So we're truly grateful. Also want to thank Chief Schuler from CAL FIRE, who's here. It's his crews that came down and partnered with lifeguards, Lieutenant Sandmeyer, who helped identify these key locations, and they brought their teams down here and to help clear ways for us to access the river. So we couldn't have done it without CAL FIRE. And all the other folks that were mentioned, Parks and Rec, their biologists that came out and studied the area to make sure we were going in the area appropriately and correctly. The River Conservancy, again, just so many people to thank. It is going to make our job safer. So with that, I'd like to introduce CAL FIRE Chief Nick Schuler. Chief, thanks.
Good afternoon. Working and living in San Diego, we're all no strangers to emergencies and disasters. And I think as you look around here today, this is a prime example of the benefits of interagency cooperation and collaboration. As we look around with the weather conditions like the councilman talked about, today may not be the day we need this access, but we're working proactively and collaboratively together. So on behalf of CAL FIRE, I want to thank the leadership from the lifeguards, our fire chief, and the councilman for having us here, and CAL FIRE continues to be committed not only to the city of San Diego, but any agency that needs our support. Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here and speaking today. And, you know, all of this need came together, but it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the River Conservancy, Ben Clay, Julia, Dustin, Wendell from over at the Conservancy. They have the permits in place to get rid of the non-invasive species, to get rid of the invasive species. They have the permits and the cooperation and the manpower to make the kind of different silos talk to each other and make good things like this happen. So really, without them and their leadership, this thing wouldn't have got off the ground. And I just wanted to say thank you to the River Conservancy as well. So that's what we're here about today, is to talk about what we're doing to make it safer for people along the river. And, you know, we do have some issues with homeless along the river, and we've had to make rescues of homeless people along the river too. And, you know, we've all seen the pictures when the rains are coming and the roads have water and somebody goes in and gets swept downriver. Before, you had to go a long distance to try and find those people and access them and get to them safely. Now that we're going to have some of these access points cut and made available, it's going to make it much easier to save lives and to not risk the lives of our first responders. So thank you all very much, and we'll be available for one-on-ones right after. Thanks again.